What if control over the world didn't come from armies, but from ports? What if the real battle for global power isn't being fought on land or in the air, but along coastlines, shipping lanes, and cargo terminals? Because right now, across continents, from Europe to Africa to Asia, something quiet is happening. China is buying, building, and controlling ports, one by one, and the world is only beginning to notice. Why would a country invest billions into ports thousands of miles away? Is this just business, or something much bigger? To understand this, we need to look at how global trade really works. Nearly 90% of global trade moves by sea, passing through a network of strategic ports that act as gateways between continents, economies, and supply chains. Whoever controls these ports doesn't just control cargo, they influence trade routes, economic access, and even political leverage. Historically, powerful empires understood this, from maritime European powers to colonial trade networks that shaped global dominance. Today, that same logic is being applied again, but in a far more calculated and modern way. Over the past 2 decades, China, through the People's Republic of China, has invested heavily in port infrastructure across the world, often through loans, partnerships, or direct ownership stakes. This expansion is closely linked to the Belt and Road Initiative, a massive global infrastructure project designed to connect Asia, Europe, and Africa through trade networks. Ports are a critical part of this strategy, serving as hubs that connect railways, roads, and maritime routes into a single global system. It's not random investment. It's strategic positioning. China's presence can now be seen in major ports across multiple continents, including key locations in Europe, Southeast Asia, and Africa, where Chinese companies have acquired stakes or long-term operating rights. These ports often sit along vital shipping routes, including choke points where global trade converges, giving them outsized strategic importance. By securing access to these locations, China is effectively building a chain of logistical nodes that extends its reach far beyond its borders. Each port is not just an asset. It's a piece of a much larger system. On the surface, these investments are framed as economic partnerships, helping countries develop infrastructure, boost trade, and stimulate growth. For many developing nations, Chinese financing provides opportunities that might not otherwise exist. However, critics argue that these deals can create long-term dependencies, especially when countries struggle to repay loans tied to infrastructure projects. In some cases, this has led to renegotiations, extended leases, or increased Chinese control over key assets. This raises an important question. Where does business end and influence begin? Beyond economics, ports also have strategic value, offering potential logistical support for naval operations, surveillance, and supply chains in times of crisis. While China emphasizes peaceful development, the dual-use nature of infrastructure means that commercial ports can, under certain conditions, serve strategic or military purposes. This creates concern among other global powers, particularly as China's global footprint continues to expand. Control of infrastructure is not just about trade. It's about options. What makes China's approach different is the scale and connectivity of its investments. These are not isolated projects, but parts of a larger interconnected network that links ports with railways, pipelines, industrial zones, and digital infrastructure. The result is an integrated system that enhances efficiency, reduces costs, and strengthens China's position in global supply chains. It is a long-term vision, one that extends influence not through force, but through infrastructure. As China's port network expands, other nations have begun to respond, reassessing their own infrastructure strategies and forming new partnerships to balance influence. In Europe and the United States, concerns have been raised about security, economic dependence, and control over critical infrastructure. This has led to increased scrutiny of foreign investments and efforts to develop alternative trade and infrastructure initiatives. The competition is no longer just about markets. It's about who shapes the system itself. China's port strategy reflects a broader shift in how power is exercised in the modern world, less visible, more structural, and deeply embedded in the systems that keep the global economy running. Rather than direct confrontation, influence is built through connectivity, access, and control over key nodes in global networks. This approach is slower, quieter, and often harder to detect, but its impact can be just as profound. China is not conquering territory in the traditional sense. It is building pathways, linking continents, shaping trade, and positioning itself at the center of global movement. So the next time you see a cargo ship entering a distant port, ask yourself, who really controls where it goes?